Hi again, as I said, I'm Giulia. I'm an Italian living in Barcelona, and today I'm going to talk about the benefits and perception of plant-based food. So just so that you have an idea, during my presentation, I will explain you a little introduction, and then we will move forward to the data analysis part. Later on, I will show you the sentiment analysis I performed, and finally, some conclusion. So to begin with, why I chose to do this project. Well, I chose this topic because I have been vegetarian for some years and now I am vegan. And I know that there is a lot of conversation going on around this topic, so I wanted to find out a bit more what people think, because I know that sometimes there are very strong opinions about that. So let me just make a quick intro about plant-based. What is plant-based? So this term refers to diets that have few animal products rather than plant products. So diets that consist mostly or totally of food derived from plants, such as vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, and so on. So it refers to both vegan and vegetarian diets. Having said that, I also have found out a lot of scientific evidence showing that a plant-based diet is more sustainable for the planet and healthier for humans compared to a no plant-based one. So in this first part of data analysis, I wanted to show the benefits that a larger adoption of this diet would have on both the Spanish territory and people, because I did it on a national basis, considering Spain. So for this part, I analyzed and cleaned 2 data sets sourced from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations and the Spanish National Institute of Statistics, which is called INE. So considering the first data set, this was coming from FAO website, and it is about greenhouse gas emissions associated with land management activities. So what I found out cleaning the data was that the most part of the yearly emissions was related to animal management, let's say. As you can see here, 70% of the yearly greenhouse gas emissions was caused by manure and enteric fermentations, for example, related to cattle, while just 25% was related to crops management, such as fertilizer, cultivation, and so on. So this means that if more people would adopt a plant-based diet, it would help to reduce the land use and also contrast global warming. And then we move on to the second data set, which was sourced from INE, and it is about the top 10 causes of death in Spain per year. So as you can see in this graph, these are the top 10 causes of death, of the functions, and I have divided them, let's say, into 2 groups according to the color. So you can see the red ones, which are heart and blood-related disease, such as cardiac, ischemic, or cerebrovascular disease, as well as hypertension, while in blue, there are other pathologies. And why I did this division? Because if we aggregate data, if we consider a data which is less granular, all the heart and blood diseases represent the #1 cause of death, as you can see in this graph. This is in Spanish. I got it from the Statistics Institute, and clearly shows that they are the #1 cause of death. And cardiovascular disease is less frequent in vegans and people that adopt a plant-based diet, because there is scientific evidence that these diets can help in both preventing and treating hypertension. So people with plant-based diet also have positive effects on health. And then we move on to the third part, which is the sentiment analysis. I performed a sentiment analysis using Twitter data because it's really polarized, let's say, social media, and I wanted to understand the perception of people around this topic. And let me say, just a side note, sentiment analysis is a subfield of natural language processing, which is aimed to extract information, such as a feeling, a sentiment, from text. So I used the Twitter API and the Python library called EssenceScrape. Let me say that I've encountered a lot of difficulties during this first part of scraping, because applying for the account has been a long process with a lot of questions, and it took me some time. And apart from that, the basic account has some limitations. For example, you cannot filter by country, and you also can access the recent data from the last 7 days. So I wanted to get historical data as well, but all the tools that I tried at first, like Octoparse and other software, didn't work. This is because Twitter has recently made some updates, which made this platform really unfriendly for scraping. But luckily, in the end, I found an alternative using this library called EssenceScrape. So in the end, I selected 40 keywords, and I analyzed tweets for a period of 1 year, March 2020 to March this year, and I have created a data set from scratch of 10,000 tweets. And then here you can see an example of a text cleaning. Here in the first part, the first text is a tweet before the cleaning. And the second image is the same tweet after the cleaning. What I did was, for example, to put everything to lowercase, to remove URLs, symbols, remove stop words, which are words very frequent and not relevant. And this is a very important part for the language processing. And later on, I moved to the sentiment analysis itself, and I used two tools, two libraries of Python. One is Vader, which stands for Balance Aware Dictionary and Sentiment Reasoner. And the other one is Spanish Analysis Sentiment, which is specific for Spanish language. And these tools allow to classify, let's say, text and assign an output according if the text is considered positive or neutral or negative. So, for example, here we can see an example of a positive tweet. This tweet talks about the benefits of plant-based diets, while this is a neutral one talking about a company of food tech, while the last example is clearly a negative one, and this tweet basically shows a person which is not happy, not a fan of plant-based food. Having said that, I have compared the two tools, and I have seen that the distribution of the sentiment predicted was very similar. You can see it mostly the same. So to conclude, for the last part, I created a word cloud of the most common words for positive tweets, which are hacer, receta, like doing things. This is one for neutral, in which we can see more technical terms, while this one is for negative. And this was, I didn't gather a lot of insights here. So to conclude, I can say that Spanish-speaking people haven't a highly polarized perception about plant-based food. And as next steps, I would like to extend the research and analyze other variables, as well as predict the plant-based market growth, and maybe repeat the sentiment analysis in a couple of years to see if something changes. So that was it. Thanks for your attention, and I hope you enjoyed.
Great job, Julia. Amazing.
Thank you.
Super interesting. I'm becoming a plant-based now. I'm kind of vegetarian. I cannot quit fish, but I'm trying my best. So I believe Barcelona is a good city to do so.
Yeah,
place.
Definitely.
Yeah. So any questions?
Yes, I have one. I want to ask to Julia, which was the hardest part of this project?
Thanks for asking, Vero. The hardest part was for sure to scrape the historical data because of all the limitations of both Twitter account and the API. So before finding this solution of EssenceScrape library, I've had to try a lot of alternatives, and none of them worked because of these updates. So I didn't want to give up, and yeah, in the end I found this library, which luckily it worked, but yeah, it's not like very easy to use API and to scrape historical data. Yeah, that was the hardest part for sure.
Awesome. Idoia?
Yes, I have one question regarding the tweets. Really interesting. Congratulations on the job. So you were scrapping tweets in Spanish, regardless. So it doesn't matter if those people that were like posting those tweets were in France or in Germany or in Spain or etc. No, this is so just Spanish without, because I think it will be interesting also to see the locations. No, because it's not the same to live in Barcelona, that maybe it's a city that is really like open to like plant-based and it really like metropolitan, etc., rather than somebody that is living in a really small village in, I don't know, in my hometown in Lleida, no? So I think it will be interesting to like dive a little bit, no, of our next steps. Just my suggestion, because it will. And another question regarding the years in which the historical days. So it was. Can you remind? Well, can you remind me the specific amount of years?
The tweet I analyzed were dated from March 2020 to March 2021. So the range was 1 year.
Cool.
Yeah, it will be interesting for sure to consider the location because of what you said, and also maybe consider more historical data. I thought about that because I thought that, for example, considering, I don't know, 10 years ago,
yes,
the thing was really different for sure.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Vale,
That
cool.
would give me data for a whole another project.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. No, but congratulations, you did a really nice job. Congrats.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Idoia. Virginia?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Julia if the results that you have are what you expected, or did anything like stand out?
Yeah, thanks, Mir. In the beginning, I thought that I would get different results, so it wasn't really what I expected, in the sense that I was expecting a more negative sentiment because of my personal experience. So in the end, that was what I found out was good, because it wasn't like there weren't a lot of negative tweets about that, but it wasn't like brilliant either for me because there were a lot of neutral tweets. The good thing is that positive tweets were more than negative ones. So I'm happy about that. Thanks.
Nice. I have a question. If imagine that you have to start from scratch, what would you do differently?
In the project, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, maybe I would apply more filters. Like, for example, instead of Spanish-speaking general, I would, for example, target a location, I don't know, maybe just Spain, or maybe just Catalonia, analyzing Catalan language. That would be super interesting, because in Barcelona only, there are a lot of startups doing plant-based food. So I think that was important. And apart from that, I would like, as I said, to consider more data and more motivations in favor of plant-based food. I analyzed the health and the land management, but actually there will be like many more data in favor of these causes, such as the water use, for example.
Awesome. Fair enough. Thank you so much, Julia. Amazing.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, so next one is going to be Veronica Torres.
Yes, okay. One moment, I will share my screen. Okay, hello all, I am Veronica Torres. And first, to start my presentation, I would like to introduce to you Ivanita. She is one of the many children who suffer from malnutrition in Venezuela. And in this country, last year, between February and July, the acute malnutrition increased more than 70%. So, and this is my project, Child Malnutrition in Venezuela. And for it, I was very lucky, and I had the opportunity to collaborate with a small NGO that they have the project based in this country. Also, currently I am working in the NGO Médicos Sin Fronteras, Médecins Sans Frontières, and I realized that in general the NGO collects a lot of information, but they don't use all of it. So for this, with this analysis, I would like to help to this NGO to improve their project. Well, the name of this NGO is Meal for Hope, and despite being a small NGO, they have several programs that they designed to work with local volunteers to implement a health and nutrition plan for their children. And one of the most important of them is the malnutrition treatment. So as you told you, they gave me the opportunity to collaborate with them, analyze their database where they have all the children information, and this information they collected by hand through this template. There are the typical children features, but there are another one not very common, as the type of caregiver, the transport that they use, or the time that they spend to arrive to the health center. But they are very important for this analysis. So initially I had 77 features, but after talk several times with the NGO to understand all of them, and after a long process of cleaning data process that included text cleaning and dropped new values, finally I reduced them in around 20 features for this analysis. And there are in a total of 1,023 children that they were treated between 2019 and 2020. So where do they work? For this program completely, the NGO works in these 6 regions. And so far, if we see the children's gender, here we can see that they have more or less an equal number of children. And if we look at the children's by age, the biggest one that they treat is the group between 6 months and 5 years old. That it makes sense because it's the group most likely to develop malnutrition. So if we move on to the next slide, here we can see the different types of the malnutrition that there are. Sorry? Sorry, I listened something. And there are, here, sorry, we can see the different malnutrition that there are. The worst of them is the acute, and there are at risk, alert, chronic, and the 2 highest ones that they have by children age is the acute and at risk. So after answering all the questions that the NGO gave me, then they are in the appendix if you want more or you need more information about them. Finally, I want to focus on 2 of them that for me, they have more information or more relevant information. There are how do the patients arrive to their center, and can it have any consequence for their health? So first of all, I want to check on to analyze the type of transport that these people use for arrival to the health center. So here we can see the majority of the people arrive on foot, with more than 56% of the people, and secondly by public transport. It can be because in Venezuela there are a big crisis, and one of the consequences is the problem to get petrol. And if there are public transport, they're not enough for the number of the people. So after that, I want to look how long it takes to arrive to their health center. So here we can see that the majority of the people spend less than 1 hour to arrive to the center, but there are a high number of people, with a 33%, that spend more than 1 hour to arrive. So this is very important, because if the children take a long time to arrive to the health center, they have more risk of malnutrition. For that reason, I wanted to focus in this group and analyze it more deeply. So first, I want to understand the type of transport that they use, these people that spend more than 1 hour. So here we can see the majority of the people arrive by public transport, but there being a high number of people that arrive on foot. This is a general overview, but I wanted to analyze by region and see if there are anyone or someone that inside above others. And there are 2 regions that they have a high numbers. They are Bolivar, with more than 77% that the region arrive on foot, and in Strategy, with more than 92% that the people arrive by public transport. But in this case, for example, Bolivar can be because it's a region with a remote zone, and they have hard access to the transport, in general. and Anzoátegui is is more an urban zone. So after this, I want to understand if in these two regions concretely, the children have any consequences in their health. And so in this slide, we can see that there are consequences because in Bolívar, there are more than 85% of the children that they have an acute malnutrition, and in Anzoátegui, the opposite, then the people arrive by public transport, but they spend more than 1 hour. Sorry, there are more than 83% of the children that they are at risk, but they don't have it yet. So this diagnosis may be related to the type of transport and how long it takes, because, for example, in Bolívar, it takes longer for them to arrive to the doctor, and when they finally go, the diagnosis is worse. So after this analysis, in order to try to predict the diagnosis with the feature not related with medical features, I did this basic initial model that it has an overall accuracy of 78%. But here in this metric, we can see in this graph that the worst diagnosis have a lowest number. So for the next steps, I would like to improve it, because it will be better if we have a better numbers for the worst diagnosis, because they are important. So finally, I want to give some recommendation for the MGO. As for example, add relevant fields in the registered templates. For example, if the children have siblings, and the position of the children in the family, because it can be important for predict or to understand better the diagnosis. Other thing is improve the way that it is collected, because the data now is collected by hand, and there are a lot of mistakes and missing values, and maybe we can automatize this process. And other very important is add new centers in remote zone, because as we can show, there are, for example, in Bolívar, the children have a worse diagnosis because they are in a remote zone. And the last one is more for me, is develop the machine model and create a dashboard, a simple dashboard where the people can fill some features, non-medical features, and have an approximate diagnosis. And that's all. Thank you.
Nice, Veronica. Super interesting. More for me than Venezuelan. I have a question. The NGO have a health center like in each state?
No, they have like collaboration with the locals, with the local volunteers. That maybe there are some of them. They are medical, they are doctors or nurses. But there are other programs, for example, they teach to their mothers or the people of the community how to detect or how to detect the malnutrition.
Oh, got it. And they are located, these organizations that help with them, they are located in the center of the city, or they're all around? Because
and they're all around. Normally they are in the small village, because they have if they don't have access, it's better to go to them.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. More questions? Itoya?
Yes, congratulations too. I really like it. I have some questions regarding the machine learning model, no? Because while you were doing this machine, explain us a little bit, like if it's like a starting point of how much time, let's say, did you spend on that, or just to see, because I mean, an accuracy that it's like almost 80%, it's quite nice, but it would be nice to see, let's say, the state of the.
Yeah, well, I have to be honest, because this model, well, the database, it is unbalanced. So I have to did I don't know how to say, like model, no, to implement and smooth and for us to balance it. And yes, first of all, it's an unbalanced data. So yeah, I think to start a good model, we have to have a more data and a more balanced data, because if not, it was impossible. Or maybe we can only focus in the two worst of them.
Absolutely. No, but it's pretty cool because it's like a preliminary stage. So it's at the very beginning. So it's something that you did, let's say, in 1 week, 2 weeks or whatever. So there is room for improvement, no? And it's good that you are able to detect, let's say, one of the things, no? That, okay, the data set is not balanced. So that means that it's nice, no? That on a further step, well, you can ask for more data, let's say, linked to like people, etc. That's pretty cool. Yeah, congratulations. Which is not that bad, 80% of accuracy is not that bad.
Thank you.
So congratulations.
Thanks, Hidayah. So, more questions for Veronica? No, all clear. Thank you, Veronica. So this one is going to be Evelyn.
Yes, I will share my screen. You can see it?
Perfect.
Okay. Yes, I'm Evelyn. I'm from the Netherlands, and during the day I'm an aerospace researcher, and in the evening I was a data science student at allWomen for the last few months. And I want to talk about my final project, which is about language use in Dutch newspapers. So here you can see two headlines from two major English newspapers, which are from the day that the UK left the EU. And one is from The Sun and the other one is from The Guardian. And can you guess which one is from The Sun and which one is from The Guardian? Bit short time to answer, but the right one is from The Sun and the left one is from The Guardian. You can see clearly differences in the formatting. So The Sun uses a lot larger letters and is really different than the one on the left. But what you can also see is clearly a difference in language use. So The Sun has conveyed a really different opinion to the reader about Brexit than The Guardian. And I think as a reader, it's important to be aware of these differences so that you know when you read the newspaper, which way it is kind of leaning. Because I'm from the Netherlands, I didn't focus on English newspapers, but I focused on Dutch newspapers. And here you can see the 4 major Dutch newspapers. And I do this kind of political axis on the bottom. So the Telegraaf is considered more right, populist, while the Volkskrant is considered more left, elitist. And while these kind of public opinions exist about these newspapers, there has been very little research done in the exact differences between language use. So I was interested in looking at that. And another thing I was interested in is this kind of bias by newspapers a more recent phenomena, or has it always been the case? So for that, I decided to do the following for my final project, which was to analyze language use on the front page of the 4 major Dutch newspapers from 1950 to 1995. I will take you to the different steps I did in the project. So the first step was to actually get the data. And in Holland, we have this website called Delver. And this website has basically a historical database of all newspapers digitized. These are about, I think, 12 million newspapers. So that was a really big data set. So I got the API key from the Dutch Royal Library such that I could select the data I wanted for my project. And I stored this data in a local SQL database, and I ended up with about 50,000 front pages and 700,000 articles from 1950 to 1995. And it's until 1995 because after that there are copyright issues. So the Delver couldn't put those newspapers online. So when I had all the data, I analyzed it in Python per year because it was a lot of data. So I stored the data, I looked at it and also cleaned the text from all the articles. And then I asked myself the question, is it possible to separate the newspapers just based on the text in the front page articles? So in order to answer that question, I applied a machine learning model. So I used multi-class classification to basically predict the newspaper title. So is it de Volkskrant, Trouw, de Telegraaf, just from the article text. And after that, I tried to understand the differences and the results and came up with more like an end product. So I just want to take you through the analysis for a single year, which I chose 1969, the year of the moon landing. And here you can see the number of articles per newspaper. And you can see the bar is not all the same height. For some newspapers, there were more articles than for others. So to get rid of this imbalance, I sampled the data such that for all newspapers, there were about 3,000 articles. Then I did the classification with the clean text. And first I fitted the model with the training data. So in the training data set, I have the article text and I also have the answer. So I know which newspaper corresponds to which article. Then in the test data, I just have the article text and I predict the newspaper title. And when I did that with the test data set, I got the accuracy of about 67%. And here you can see the recall. So that means if you look, for example, at the Volkskrant, that 67% of all Volkskrant articles were predicted as the Volkskrant, so were predicted kind of correctly. Then I did the analysis for all the years from which I had data. And what you can see here, again on the top, is the recall. So for example, in 1955, 70% of the newspapers was predicted correctly. And of the 30% which wasn't predicted correctly, you can see here at the bottom what it was classified as. So here you can see that about 10% of each other newspaper, it was quite balanced in that sense. It stays balanced here. And then here from 1970, we see suddenly that the Trouw gets classified a lot more as the Volkskrant. So they become a lot more similar, it seems. And when I looked up what was happening here with Trouw, I actually found that there was a change in editor-in-chief and also the signature of Trouw. So they really decided to go a bit another way. So I thought it was quite interesting. I could see that in my results. Then from this first analysis, I wanted to know if it classifies well, because the used words are really different for different newspapers, because I wanted to look at the language use. When I looked at the 10 words, which were most important in classifying, in doing the classification, so in separating these newspapers, I came with these 10 words, which I translated in English. So here it is according, just Amsterdam, Rotterdam, said. So it's kind of general. You could say maybe one newspaper used more quotes because they use more according and said, but it's still kind of general. And that's why I came up with another question, and that was more to really make it more possible for a reader to inform themselves about these biases in the different newspapers. And for that, I came up with this kind of product ID, where I wanted to make a tool where people can learn more about the differences. And I focused here first on topics which can be described with a single word. So for example, political parties, people, things like this. And I also focused on groups of 2 and 3 words for the classification, so that it was a bit more less general than I showed before. So I just want to show you how the product looked like. So here, this would be like the website. So if I look, for example, for CDA, which is the Dutch Christian Democratic Party, I can start the analysis. and it shows the results for this word. So what you can see here is how many times the word has been used throughout the years for the different newspapers. Here it hasn't been used at all because the party didn't exist. So it was kind of logical. And then in the second part, I take out the year where the word was used the most, which is 1977 in this case. And I scraped data from Wikipedia to tell what happened in that year related to CDA. So here it says, yeah, it's all in Dutch, but here it says that CDA won the election. So that was why it was mentioned a lot in that year. Then here it shows the machine learning results. So this is again the recall for each different newspaper. You can see, for example, the Volkskrant here was classified at 60% correct, and it was mostly classified after that as Trouw, which newspapers are quite close on that political axis I showed before. And then here, finally, you can see those 10 words which were most important for the classification. And here I already saw something quite interesting. For example, here they talk about Van Agt, which was the prime minister who was chosen in that year. And you can see here that one newspaper refers to him as Mr. Van Agt. The Telegraaf mostly refers to him like that, while the other newspapers almost don't. And then here you can see Leider Van Agt, which means leader Van Agt. So that's a really different connotation than Mr. Van Agt. And you can see that the Telegraaf almost doesn't use that term, while the other newspapers kind of do. So I thought it was interesting that, you could already see this kind of differences in language use, which kind of, reflect another opinion. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation. So what I still want to do is look more into the language structure, because I now really looked at words, and I want to look more also at the context. Use sentiment analysis or more opinionated parts of the newspaper, and also to add other news sources to the database. Then I want to end with saying that I didn't only learn data science these few months, también aprendí un poco de español. Gracias.
That's amazing, Evelyn. Super interesting. Gracias a ti for this amazing presentation.
That was it.
Super interesting. So there is any questions? Idoia?
Yes, congratulations. Really nice job. And well, first of all, I don't know how did you manage to calculate everything with that amount of data. I think that either you were using clouds or your computer is super powerful, because that amount of data is hilarious to treat. So congratulations. Maybe people are not that familiar, let's say, with that amount of data, but well, congratulations. I have one question regarding the machine learning model. But you are building this machine learning model that it's in fact a mathematical function, but all the different information that you got from this Dolphin or Delphi website, it contained text. So how did you manage to get these models run, let's say, or work properly?
Yes. So yeah, the models work with numerical data, let's say, with numerical input. So what I did is use a vectorizer. So in that case, you kind of divide the text in all the words which appear, and then you count the words, the amount of times that word appears in the text, and use this TF-IDF vectorizer. So it also takes into account if the word appears a lot of times in all the articles of the different newspapers, it gets kind of less importance. So it takes out kind of the important words.
Yes, but I mean, maybe you are duplicating the total number of variables, no? Maybe with that TF-IDF thing, maybe. So
yeah, I limited it there, like the number of features I limited because it
Yes.
was getting out of hand.
A lot, no? And
Yeah.
congratulations also on the API that you've created, but well, it was not part of the course. I don't know if you learned or if you knew how to do it like previously, or if you learned it during the course or etc. But congratulations, because that was for sure not part of the course. So congratulations on that, because it's pretty cool. I want the link to like do some tests. I don't know Dutch, but
Good try.
because
Yeah.
it looks really nice. Okay, so
Thanks.
congratulations.
We learned it in a little bit in the course from Ona. So
Cool.
yes, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Evelyn.
Yes, thanks.
Next, give me 1 second. Okay. Next one is going to be Virginia.
Yeah. 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you again, everyone, for being here today, this evening. My name is Virginia, and I am originally from Argentina. But I've been in Barcelona for about 3 years now. And just to give you a bit of context, I've been working in the finance industry for about 8 to 9 years now. So I guess my final project, I decided to build as a proof of concept an interactive company dashboard with some key financial information. So this is a bit of the overview that I'll go over today. So basically, I'll start with the business challenge, like why I decided to do this. Then I'll dig a little deeper and just show the dashboard, the key features, where I got the data, some of the cleaning that I performed. And then I have a section with a sentiment analysis that I'll go over as well. And last but not least, I'll also showcase the dashboard live, and I'll also have a little case study where I'm comparing two companies and just showing how I will use it. So why did I decide to do this dashboard? It has to do a lot with my current job and some problems that we encounter because we have a lot of data sources and a lot of information, but it seems that we don't have one place where everyone has access to and can see all of this information together. So that is one of the main reasons. And also because there is a lot of gathering of data and maintenance in Excel. So it's a lot of manual updating for a lot of the junior people. So what I want, my proposed solution is, I guess it's an interactive dashboard that I want to present to my managers as a proof of concept. And it's going to have some key financial information. And it's going to have ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance scores, and then the latest news and some sentiment analysis on the company and the news. So basically, to start with, I decided to use 10 IT companies that are public just for simplicities and obtaining like data from the public APIs. And like I mentioned before, the dashboard has a section with financial data, a section with ESG scores, the market news, and a sentiment analysis. In terms of the cleaning of the data and getting the data, a lot of the data for the financials I got from APIs that are public. I had to do some cleaning up of the columns, merging all the data sets together, because essentially the key financial indicators that you will see come from different financial statements and from different dates. So I wanted to make sure that everything was aligned. And then for the ESG scores, I had to use web scraping. So a bit into the sentiment analysis, like Julia mentioned, I also used Vader. She explained a bit what sentiment analysis is, but basically what I was trying to get to with this point was I just wanted to avoid having to scroll down through all the news articles of a company in order to see the perception of that company. So I just want to see what's going on with Amazon. What's going on with Alibaba? Is there anything negative going on? Is there anything that should call my attention that could affect the stock price? So that's kind of the idea, just to have a quick snapshot as opposed to having to scroll down and look nonstop. So I will go ahead now and just show the dashboard really quickly. So I hope you can see it. So this is what the dashboard looks like. So here, essentially, you have a section where you can choose the different stocks, the different companies. For us, it's very important to see the stock price. So I included the open, the close, and also like a rolling average, just to see, kind of where it stands and how it's been performing. I have a section with the key financial indicators. Essentially here I am comparing the numbers for that specific company to the average, and just seeing how they're performing. Here in this section, I have the environmental, social, and governance score. This is the main score and the way it's split up. And this is quite important because it has to do with what a company is doing to be environmental friendly, making sure that the company is not in any scandals in terms of like social or any governance, that they're following risk procedures. So this is something that we look at. So the higher, the better. And last but not least, this is the section of the news, which in this case, you can start scrolling down, seeing the latest news. I just picked the latest days, but you can kind of see the overall sentiment. Is it positive? Is it negative? What's been going on these days? Let's say what happened here on the 18th. So like I mentioned, it's interactive. Here, you can select the company you want to see and kind of see what's going on. This will change. And, this would give us a very quick snapshot of what's going on with the company. So back to the presentation, I just wanted to show a quick case study of how we would use it. So for that, I chose Amazon and Alibaba, since, they have quite a similar business model. And for example, in terms of the stock price, like I can see really quickly that Alibaba's stock is quite more volatile, or at least a bit more volatile than Amazon, which tends to be a bit more stable. So that's for the stock price. In terms of the key financial indicators, also, I guess what caught my attention is that, some of the key indicators are not that off, but the enterprise value, which is how much the company is worth, is more than twice. Amazon's value is more than twice of Alibaba. So, that is something also that is very interesting for our type of analysis. Like I mentioned, the ESG, or environmental, social, and governance scores. Here I can also see that Amazon's score is way higher. So it seems like they're doing things, I don't know if better, but they are taking all of this more seriously. So, that is something that I didn't know. I wasn't expecting that. And I guess last but not least, I have the section of the sentiment on the news articles. And, like the first thing I see is it seems that overall there's a more negative sentiment for Alibaba. But for example, what happened with Amazon here on the 20th? So I had to dig a little deeper, and I saw that it had to do with some strikes that happened in Italy, and just in general for Alibaba, I can see that there had been a lot of things with antitrust laws, some issues with the Chinese government. So, in general, this kind of gives me a quick snapshot of what's going on. And last but not least, in terms of the next steps, I would like to possibly show this to my managers as a proof of concept. I want to keep developing it with some private data that we have access to, some paid sources, some paid APIs, and include other types of information. And I would also like to include a machine learning model, which is quite complex. I don't know how I would start with this, but it would be to try to predict when a company would next issue debt in the market. So I think, yeah, those would be my next steps. Thank you.
Great. Super complete presentation, Regina. Thank you. Oh,
Thank you. Ay, déjame de compartir, ¿no?
Yes. No worries. Any questions? Idoia, as always.
Yes, as always. Yeah, congratulations. I want to know, like, this dash thing, because I know that it's not also part of the content. So how did you start with that dash thing? Did you like do some course? Did you like work a lot and like put a lot of hours? Or because it looks super nice, because it's super interesting, your project, because it's one real application with real data coming from your company, I would say. So it's like, I would say, like the final product, no, of any project. So congratulations on that, because I can't wait to see like what your boss tells you regarding this dashboard, because it looks super nice. And I want to see which was it like your first steps in this dash thing, because I know that it's not easy and it was not part of the course. So
yeah, no, for sure. So I guess I kind of had clear in my head what I wanted to do, because it's a real problem and I think we're all very tired of it. I'm not saying it's going to be easy and of how we're going to use it with more companies and stuff, but I thought this was a good idea. And so I started investigating as to what can I do to create a dashboard, what can I do with Python, and I saw that there was Dash. And fortunately, Eva, which was our last instructor helping us with the project, she works a lot with it. So she was very, very helpful and a great resource. And I also did another little Udemy course that she recommended as well, just to kind of get an understanding, because it was all new in terms of understanding the layout, the callbacks, how the functions work. So I did spend quite a lot of hours because I didn't understand anything at the beginning. So I want to thank Eva for her time. And also, I would say that, yeah, in terms of the styling, I did it also with CSS, which I didn't know anything about. So I would say I did look up a lot of videos and just a lot of the times it was kind of, trying and failing or not. So, but yeah.
cool. You have to be proud, eh? Congratulations on that.
Julia?
Yeah, well, first of all, congrats, because it was impressive. And my question was similar to the one of Idoia, because you would like develop a lot of different components in your project, like the dashboard, the sentiment analysis, and so on. So I was curious to know about which one of these parts was the one that was more difficult for you, or that took you more time.
Yeah, so I guess in terms of difficulty, I would say what I told Idoia, like just the dashboard itself, because I didn't understand anything at the beginning. But then I guess when I got a bit a hold of how the structure worked, I understood. But the hardest thing was the functions and the callbacks, just because I wasn't so great at functions. And it was hard for me to understand, how they make things work. At the end of the day, the callbacks are the things that make the dash work. So that was the hardest part. I have a ton of functions for everything, for all the components in the dash. And that was the hardest part by far. And then it was a bit, not hard, but tedious, just gathering all the financial data, because it just came from different financial statements. And I just wanted to have it all in one data frame. So that was just, I wouldn't say hard, but it was just a bit more tedious. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. Amazing. Okay, we have 2 more projects, and the next one is going to be Marta.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
I cannot see you. So, good evening. My name is Marta, and today I'm going to talk about tourism and retail stores in Barcelona as a result of an analysis that I did where I wanted to check how the commercial activities pattern in Barcelona will change now that the drop of tourism in Barcelona, it drops between 80 to 95% due to pandemic. I'm an architect from Barcelona, and I love to walk around and discover new ways to go from one place to the other. And I'm really aware how a street may be full of life when the commercial activities and the retail stores are open to the public space and their activities are attractive to pedestrians. And also I know that a street gets less crowded when these retail stores are not so active, or maybe it may become a desert if there is no retail stores. Understanding the relation between the commercial activities and the street life and demographics, it's very important to understand how one will change when the other disappears. And of course, with the pandemic and the lockdown, there will be many factors that will impact the retail stores. But in this analysis, I focus to tourism. How will the retail store will change when tourists disappear, that already did. To answer this question, I took several data sets from Open Data Barcelona. I got the retail stores registered in 2019, the main tourist attractions in Barcelona, and as well the inhabitants and capital income by neighborhood and district. To combine all this data set, which they have different granularity, I had to use GeoPanda's library, which really helps me a lot on that, and to plot the information in maps. We'll see later. About the commercial activities data set, I got more than 80,000 retail stores distributed in 10 districts and in 73 neighborhoods. As well, the retail stores were divided in 83 categories, and I grouped them in 13 new categories, like workshops or parkings, restaurants, groceries, clothes stores, services, and we'll check on this later. About the tourist attraction, the data set, I got 500 touristic spots around the city. And as we can see in this map, most of them are located in some districts, like Gracia and Ciutat Bella, where the density is higher, and the districts with less touristic spots is Nou Barris, Horta Guinardó, Sarrià Sant Gervasi, and like the whitish colored. But before mixing all the retail stores and the tourists, I would like to explain you how the different categories of the retail stores are distributed in the 10 districts in Barcelona. And two of them caught my attention a lot. One is restaurants, which I include in their cafeterias and bars, and the clothes stores, which in there as well, there are like shoe stores or accessory stores. So let's go for the restaurants typology. As we see in this histogram, we see that in the top ranking, there is Ciutat Bella and Eixample with 1.8 restaurants every 10 retail stores. And in the lower part of the ranking, there is Horta Guinardó, which is not touristic at all, with 0.7 restaurants every 10 retail stores. Even if Ciutat Bella and Eixample had the same proportion in restaurants in the overall of their locals, if we plot the population in these districts, we see that the population in Eixample is 2.5 higher than in Ciutat Bella. So probably the 1/2 people missing there are tourists. But we'll check on this later as well. First, let's look at the clothes stores. Again, Ciutat Bella is on the top ranking, But what caught my attention mainly was Sarriá and Gervasi, with 0.9 closed stores every 10 retail stores. Sarriá and Gervasi, as we saw, it's not very touristic. But if I plot the capital income on top of this histogram, I normalize the data so that we can see, like, the brown lines in the histogram are the capital income per person average. And we see that Ciutat Bella and Sarriá and Gervasi are in the opposite corner. Sarriá and Gervasi is like 25,000 euros per inhabitant per year, and Ciutat Bella is like 11,000. So who is spending so much money in Ciutat Bella? If we take Sarriá and Gervasi as the example, to sustain that many closed stores in Ciutat Bella, the income of this district should be 30,000 euros per inhabitant, and not 11 like it is. We already know the answer, right? Tourists are sustaining all these clothes stores in Ciutat Bella. And where else are they spending money? And probably through all these pink crosses on the city. So to analyze this further, I used the volume library to do this heat map, and to be able to check the retail stores by density. And in order to extract these weird shapes, I split Barcelona in a squared grid, and I plot again the 500 tourist spots. And we see that this map really is quite like similar to the blue one that we saw before, the heat map we saw before. If we divide these squares in three typologies, like zone 3, zone 2, and zone 1, from highest tourist density to low tourist density, and we plot again restaurant per inhabitant in zone 3, we see that the brownish colors are really in the city center, and not all the hotspots in tourism are equally. We still see that the city center is high, like the restaurants per inhabitant is higher. And about zone 2, medium tourism density, the same like restaurant inhabitant, and the low tourism density. Of course, this analysis may be improved by tuning the grid that splits Barcelona, and as well by considering how crowded are every touristic points in Barcelona. But for now, we can already conclude that between zone 2 and zone 1, there is no such a difference. But in zone 3, there are double number of restaurants by the same amount of people. So who is feeding all these restaurants? Probably tourists again. As a conclusion, I found this bivariate plot really interesting, because we see that the number of retail stores by the population by neighborhood is really correlated. We see this trend line, but again we have 4 points really out trend line, like really above. And guess what? There are the 4 neighborhoods like where the touristic hot part is. And probably those are the ones in danger now that the tourism dropped down. But I'm lucky to have this graph, because it gives me already the solution that I would suggest. One is to repopulate these neighborhoods, and the other one is to reduce the retail stores. But because Barcelona is very decentralized about the commercial activities, don't forget that those that are remaining to these neighborhoods really feed the needs of people living there. Thank you.
Wow, Marta, super interesting, amazing. I just remember when you started the project that you didn't know what to do, and now I see this project and so impressed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Amazing job. Super smooth presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Any questions? Yeah, for sure.
No, congratulations. It was pretty cool the way in which you presented everything. So I can see your architect side on the slides for sure. Eh? So congratulations. I have one question because it will be also interesting to see the quality of the restaurants or the quality of the retail shops, no? Because, well, I live in Barcelona and I know that, of course, in Ciutat Vella and this kind of like center neighborhoods, there are a lot of like not good quality restaurants, not good quality. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yes,
So do you have that information or it was just what you got and that's all?
Yeah, the thing is, as Daniela said at the beginning, I was lost because there were so many data that I could get, and I used the Google API, and I got the data from 8,000 retail stores with the like the ratings and the reviews and all that stuff, and I think I will love to use it in the future because I already have it, and probably it will be a good way to see how the restaurant, like the quality of the restaurants, is different depending on the
absolutely yes, because
area.
For sure that the restaurants maybe are more or better in, I don't know, in Sarriá or what in terms of maybe quality of food and price also.
Yeah,
Price I don't know, because maybe in the touristic places they are a little bit expensive, but it will be nice also to get that data or to get some insights, I would say.
Yeah, cool. sure. This it's an endless project.
Yeah.
Because when you start digging on everything, but yeah, really.
But yes, a cool job.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Our next steps. More questions? No, clear enough. So I have to congratulate you again, Marta. Amazing, super interesting.
Thank you.
Last but not least, sorry, Veronica Enriquez.
Okay, so I will talk about gender stereotypes in family movies. I'm Veronica Enriquez, and this is my final project presentation. Thanks for attending. Gracias por atender a toda mi familia. Okay, I'm a manager and I have experience in the automotive industry, and we can meet at LinkedIn whenever you want. Why gender stereotypes? So as a data scientist, as a mom, I see gender stereotypes behaviors in my kids. I have a 3-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son, and we take care at home to educate our kids in a feminist and gender equal roles. But when I hear my son talking about her sister being bossy, or my little daughter talking about marrying a spy, a guy, I just start to worry. And then I wonder how much of these stereotypes are coming from the family movies that we watch. So to achieve this, I have created a data set from scratch. I first extracted a list with the top 150 family movies from Internet Movie Database, and I process the data to generate the URL links so I can download from websites the movie scripts, like Internet Movie Script Database and Fandom website. And then I did web scraping of the movie scripts, and which is mainly to extract from the internet all the data I required. I also extracted the lead characters from the movies by retrieving the top names used in the movie synopsis, and I label the characters, the lead characters, by gender. So after data cleaning and exploratory data analysis, I will show you now an overview of the results that I found. First is the overview of the top 150 movies over the years. So as we can see, majority of the sample of the movies are for more recent years. This could be relevant for our analysis, as there are some perceptions that in newer movies, the gender stereotypes are better treated than in the classics. So this could make the job of finding gender stereotypes more difficult, no? Isn't it? Let's see. So let's start by asking some questions. Do movies with female lead characters make it to the top? So that was one of the first questions I thought about. And not many. Only 35% of the movies with female lead characters made it to the top of the family movies. And if the male leading roles movies are the majority in our top list, do movies with male lead characters get better reviews? Not necessarily. So 7 is the average rating for both genders. So when female lead characters make it to the top, then they get in average the same value and get similar distribution of the ratings. So at least we have some good news here. And also, what does the genre of the movies tells us? How does the movie where a male character leads look like, and how does it look where the female character leads? So the top genre when male characters leads are action, adventure, and sci-fi. So the world seems really exciting when it's a male character lead. And when it comes to females, the top genres are drama and romance. So, and after these results, some food for thought. Did you know that girls begin to feel less intelligent than boys from age of 6? So these make me wonder, neither boys or girls are born sexist. So there is something in the society that we do to them to make them reach this point at such an early age. And for this, I will continue with my analysis on the movies. So how does gender stereotypes look in the movie scripts? First, I did a simple text pre-processing and filtered adjectives and nouns. And after classifying the movie scripts by gender of the lead character, I extracted the top words. So when trying to compare the male and female versions, I could not really find in the top words used a clear stereotype situation. So stereotypes are not so obvious sometimes. So the first conclusion was that no obvious difference was found after basic pre-processing, and there is no clear gender stereotype. So this made me realize, is there really a gender stereotypes in the scripts, or are gender roles more subtle and go unnoticed? So for this, I did a little bit more digging and use machine learning and natural language processing to bring our words into context. For this, I created a word-to-vec model, which is a 2-layer neural network that will help us find the word semantic similarities by doing algebraic operations. And yes, this is a model that learns, let's say, similar to our brains do. So when looking at it, it will look similar like the typical homework we were given when we were kids, isn't it? So for example, Madrid is to Spain as which word is to France. So that would be Paris. So the model will execute this in a mathematical way. So let's explore the model. Sorry, stereotypes are, so when we ask the model, which words are the most similar in our movie scripts to girl and to boy, what is the answer the model is giving us? So stereotypes are picked up by the model. When it comes to girls, it seems like we have a type here. So we look at the red-haired marrying type. And for boys, of course, there's a huge match to our old friend Pinocchio. It relates boy to Pinocchio, but also to words such as brat and hero. And when we apply the model to job-related words, are there any stereotypes? So in this case, the model gave us the names of characters, and this is what they look like. So when we talk about the office, we can miss the angry male boss or the unconfident older assistant. And also we cannot miss the beautiful, sexy nurse, even to the point of the ridicule if we look at SpongeBob. And also the nurse stalker. It was quite a surprise, but okay, we have in Pokemon Nurse Stalker. It's a part of it. So when comparing men and women, which words are the most feminine or more masculine? So here what I'm trying to achieve is to concentrate the words that are more similar to men and less similar to women, and the other way around. So for when we do this, we get for men words such as speed, concentrate, idea, excellent, win, but also criminal, deadly, armor, attack, kill, and kidnap. And for women, we get dress, wedding, marry, dearie, madame, silent, and also garden, mansion, restaurant, and more surprisingly, junk. This part, okay. So making analogies within our movies is also an example of how our model is performing. So the model got a good insight from Beauty and the Beast. So in this case, if Belle is to books as Hunter is to which word? So I asked the model which word is to Hunter as Belle is to books. So in this case, it gave me beast and ogre. No, so typical. I think a model is picking up all the information from the movies, and it's a typical stereotype when we have a smart women, like in Beauty and the Beast. Then we get the ogre and the hunter and the toxic guy. So prince is too strong as princess is too. Then we got Naveen, Aurora, Edward, and Mary. So I asked myself, okay, so getting married to a prince, the princess world is not changing that much over the years. So we have reference to Aurora, which is a classic, but we also have reference to newer movies such as the Princess and the Frog. And what about the classical superhero and the lovely sweetie? So yes, our model also picked this up. And when I ask which word is to girl as to Parker is to spider, then we get red hair, sweetie, and Jenny. So there is something definitely going on with red hairs and family movies. It's really, it's really there. So wrapping up, my conclusions are that the first gender gap is that only 35% of the movies with female lead characters made it to the top of the list. Once in the top of the list, ratings are similarly distributed and no considerable gap has been seen. There are clear stereotypes on the genre based on the movie lead character gender. So males had like action, adventure, and sci-fi, and females drama and romance. Gender stereotypes are not always so obvious. So in the movie scripts were not easy to find when looking at the top words, and text had to be looked at in context. So NLP helped me achieve this task. And although the data set includes a higher number of recent movies versus classical ones, we can observe gender stereotypes and find recent examples of them while exploring the word-to-vec model. So, and most importantly, that stereotypes are impacting both genders. So for girls, this often means that they are still focused on the appearance and also on their marriage status, as we could see on our word-to-vec model. But also for the boys, there is a narrow construction about the femininity and the masculinity. So they are really away from softer values like the love and more even closer to violent ones such as brat, kill, attack, or criminal. So is it, for me, the next step, it is clear that kids could be getting the gender stereotypes from many places, and family movies are a source of these. And as parents, we can choose how to improve this. So one way could be to avoid fitting these stereotypes. And for this, I would like to do a model in advance to show me how biased is a movie based on the gender stereotypes that I found in my project. And other option is we could feed our kids model better data that makes them aware of the gender stereotypes. So to be aware of sexism and that movies are far from the real world. So to question certain stereotypes that are taken as normal, which in reality are like social constructions. And why not? Don't stop there. So go even further and share these results and raise these within the school environment, and discuss and investigate tools to support a proactive approach in kids' education, even since early age. So don't wait until the institute, where it's normally, we are seeing new activities like engineers, women engineers going to the school, but also start in really, really early ages. And that's it. Thanks. And hola. And these are my kids, my inspiration.
That's cute. Congratulations, Veronica. Amazing presentation. I know Ona has a question.
See.
Hi there. Well,
Hi.
thank you everyone for presenting. It's been so enlightening. And Vera, today I have to congratulate you very, very much. You know that for those who haven't been on the course, this is especially the machine learning that she applied is actually deep learning. It is something that we only dedicate 1 hour the last day. So she really worked hard on that. And I think that maybe for my next course, I have to invite you to explain it because you did very well. So maybe you can go there and do a workshop. And actually the topic that you chose is a very hot topic right now in NLP, because this is how we are actually evaluating some of our models to see if there's bias or not, right? So this is one of the,
Yes.
This is actually my favorite topic. So of course I have to say something. And then regarding your project, I wonder why we didn't find any gender stereotypes on the movie scripts. I think, I don't know if you agree with that, but maybe it's because the movie script by itself may contain lots of many general words, right, describing, so it's not specifically targeted to gender. So I don't know if you wondered if you maybe could do that with plots. Maybe if we only had the plot of the movie, right, where it's much shorter, there maybe we could find some more gender stereotypes. So that's something also you could think about. And then finally, regarding the analysis that you did of movies per year, so you said that, of course, we still find stereotypes on new movies. I wonder if maybe we could split data sets, right? Because there are some new movies like Fire, Frozen, Moana, and so on. These movies are not the movies I watched as a kid. You know, I watched Cinderella, Belle and the Beast, and so on. So maybe also I would like to know if splitting our data set into, I don't know, before 1984, the year I was born, and after would give us different results, right? Because of course, if we have many more movies from like older movies, those are gonna overcome the results of the new ones. At least we may get some hope from there. So I don't know if you agree with that or if you thought about it.
Yeah, I definitely thought about it, but in the yes, there are better stereotypes in the newer movies, but you still find in Frozen, you still find the marriage, the need for, of course, you have like a powerful figure like Elsa, which is the superhero or something, but then she's treated like a witch, or and then you know, you still see these stereotypes in the new movies. But yes, I also wonder the same, because there is some small change, but it's still like maybe not enough. My I don't know, I see it in my kids. My kids don't see the older movies, and I can still hear my 3-year-old daughter talking about marriage, and that's quite
definitely.
Yes.
Well, you have to, if you implement this, please send it to me so I know which movies I should watch. Actually, I want all of your APIs so I know which paper I need to read, I know where I should invest, and so on.
Yes,
Thank you
yes.
very much.
I was thinking of doing like a doc to back, so I could compare the movies, and yes, maybe use the prompt, the summaries, movie summaries will perform better. Yes, yeah.
Okay, so share it with us. Thanks.
Thank you, Ana. Idoia?
Yeah, super interesting, and I encourage you to publish also a Medium post or a Towards Data Science post, because that's one thing that we all like consider or think about it, and you've proven that it's like this with data. Because sometimes it's like, yes, okay, frozen, it's more like not that stereotype thing, but you've proven it, not frozen, proven it with data. So I encourage you to publish something on
Yes,
Medium. All of you,
like
I would say. But I think it's because we have to spread the word, because that's how it works, no? Or how we should try to like break this stereotype thing.
And for me, it's like starting really in an earlier age, because I think when we start like girls at 11, maybe it's showing also that you have the negative impact also on the boys and the men.
Absolutely.
Because it also shows the more violent association with the males, like the toxic masculinity. So this is something I don't want either for my boy or for my girl.
Absolutely.
Yes, and yes, I would also like to see how to promote this inside the school environment, because education is the key here. So yes, yeah. I would love your support, girls. I think we're all like.
Agreed. Ladies, thank you so much. You did an amazing job for these 24 weeks. It's a lot, 24 weeks. I know some of you have childs, you have another work, so it's a commitment that you really does during this time. Also, all your motivation, the relationship that you made between you all, your classmates, it's amazing, and that's super important. I remember I told you that during the day zero, because that really make a difference in addition, and your teachers can agree with me. I believe that when you share, when you help each other, it make the course super easy, and so you can, help share your knowledge and learn from others. So I'm super proud all this work for those that made it until the end. And yeah, I don't know if your teachers that are here, Ona, Eva.
Yes. Sorry, I went in. So thank you, Daniela. I just want to say the same. It's been a pleasure for me teaching you, getting to know all of you. I think that especially with COVID times, we may be a bit afraid that virtual lessons and so on may get a bit colder, but you made it very warm. I feel like very attached to you all and super proud of having seen all of your process, when you started until now. I just want to say that you are now all data scientists already. And this is not the end, right? This is just the start of your journey. I hope that this doesn't end here. And of course, you can always drop me an email, a Slack message or whatever, because I would love to keep in touch. And yeah, you rock. Congrats. I'm so super happy.
And thank you also for all the instructors for your commitment and time during those weeks that you always were there, making everything easier for us as a staff and also for the ladies. Thank you. Thank you all.
Yes, I think we all the students want to thank all the allWomen team. You're amazing also.
Thank you. Thank you, Veronica. Yeah, and as Ona said, this is just the beginning. You just start this journey, so we will have more events with us, networking, and yeah, I hope one day you can share all this knowledge that you will get with us in a class or maybe in a talk. You will be more than welcome here, for our community. So thank you, congratulations, and take a beer or a glass of wine because you deserve it for sure.
Thanks, Daniela.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will be sending you the certificate and the next step for the hiding and the talks that you will be having to be ready for all your interviews and for all what is next. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gracias, papi.
Bye. So nice.
Bye, ladies. Had fun.
Bye.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.